Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Al Alvarez. I'm Program Director at Greater Newark Enterprises Corporation. We are now known as GNEC. We've rebranded ourselves. We have a new logo, and will continue to be known as GNEC. Before we get started in the program today, I'd like to mention that we have the pleasure of having Tahira Martin and also Dana Alexander from um, I'm sorry.
Be administrative solutions.
This threw a blank just now. But I'll let them introduce themselves. Um, and today's topic will be the small business bookkeeping for the 2025 tax season, taming the financial monster.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully, we can get through all the information. Of course, when we are dealing with taxes, we all know that there's a slew of information, and with the new tax laws that are coming in, I'm pretty sure we get through it, and hopefully I'll be able to answer all your questions. So once again, I am Tahira Martin. I am the Director of Operations for B Administrative Solutions. We are a administrative and back office operations firm that helps small businesses basically grow and manage their back office operations. So today we are going to be talking about small business bookkeeping for the 2025 tax season. And as Al mentioned, this is about taming your financial monster. So let's get started. So today we're going to explain who we are. We are going to talk about why bookkeeping is essential to small business. Just to let you know, it is the foundation of all small businesses. We're going to speak about tax planning and how bookkeeping leads to timely tax filing and how you can avoid penalties and basically staying out of jail if you are not doing the right things with your taxes. So who are we? We're administrative management team. We are located in Rockaway, New Jersey. That is right up 80. It's a beautiful scenery. And we also are able to do virtual calls and meet in different locations when we go over some of our services. We've been in operations, dealing and helping small businesses grow we have 22 years of experience with business management, bookkeeping, risk management, and state and federal compliance. And we aid small businesses in operations, payroll management, tax filing, and tax strategy. So for our services, basically what we're going to be talking about today is bookkeeping and the importance. Now, before we even get into our services, I do want to remind everyone on this live of GNEC services, and I want to thank them for hosting us today. So I know you guys all have information on the track one, which is the bookkeeping with QuickBooks, which provides you guys with 55 hours. I think you have to do it within 12 months. That helps you keep on track with your bookkeeping. So that's basically what we're going to be going over. You can speak with Heidi and Al in regards to that if you guys didn't sign up, but we are going to be going over the importance of bookkeeping today. So as I said before, we do bookkeeping, we do tax planning, we do payroll management, and this all comes into state and federal compliance. All of those three things there coming to state and federal compliance. We do tax filing. Once your books are in order, all that information transfers over to you being able to file your taxes, to get the right deductions, and also to get the right credits to either lower your tax obligation or possibly, in many circumstances, get a refund back if you have done the things that you needed to do throughout the tax season. So we plan for that. In terms of our back office operations, we do scheduling, invoicing, accounts receivable, customer service, and customer relations, making sure your image throughout social media and throughout the internet stays to par. We also do minority women compliance. We are a woman business, and we are certified in the state of New Jersey. So we help with DBE, which is disadvantaged businesses and small businesses, to help you guys get contracts with the states and make sure that you are in compliance with those. So we always use the analogy with all our clients that bookkeeping is a monster. It starts off as basically an egg. You have to basically feed that to keep it small. It can be tedious. It's something that a lot of times we push to the back burner when we have a great idea for a business or when we're running a business. It's one of the most important things in our business, but since we have a lot of passion about what we're doing, a lot of times it's something that gets pushed to the side. And if you don't create a schedule with your bookkeeping, it will get out of hand and it will cost you dearly later. So basically, we're looking at why bookkeeping is important. It does matter because of the fact it is tracking every part of your cash flow, what goes in and what actually comes out. When you are organizing and tracking that information and that information is being compiled, you can easily pull that information off to make decisions in business. I work in international business. I have a master's in international business and finance. And I am telling you, when your books are not kept up, you lose out on opportunities. So this is something that you have to make sure that it's accurate, that it's organized, and you always have accessibility to the information that you are putting in your books, not only for taxes, but also for if you are applying for loans, if you are bringing in other partners, if you are selling off a portion of your business. Everyone is going to want to look at your books and your financials, so you have to keep them up to date. So the importance of planning and being proactive, it avoids last minute surprises. You will be very surprised that once you get into tax season, which we consider we are already into tax season, we should be looking at how to strategize for planning for 2025. And basically, whenever we're planning what we are doing for the current year, we're also looking 5 years ahead and how we're going to plan out how you are filing and what deductions you are taking this year, and possibly what deductions are you may be taking next year and what's going to be phased out. So if you're not up to date with your books, there is a great possibility you're going to miss out on deductions, you're going to miss out on credits. So we have to make sure that you're being proactive. It also allows for forecasting. Once again, if we are planning for the 2025 season, we also have to look at what's going to happen in 2026, what deductions are phasing out. With the new tax bill, the One Big Beautiful Bill, a lot of deductions, especially for small business, are either being traded or completely phased out. So these are things that we have to look into. You're building long-term confidence within your business. So once you have that plan, that strategy, you can always go back to your bookkeeping to see if some things needed to be tweaked. Maybe you're spending too much on your cost of goods. Maybe it's time to look for a different vendor. You're only going to be able to see that is if you're tracking what's coming in and what's coming out. And that goes basically through your bookkeeping. Once again, going down to forecasting. You're forecasting not only for the current year, you're forecasting usually for the next 5 years. That's what we always suggest. And you are learning how to reinvest whatever you are able to save within your business and grow. That's how you ultimately grow. So with the new legislation, once again, you want to speak to a tax strategist now. So they can look at your books for the last 12 months. They can look at what you filed with your taxes for the last 2 years to see whether you need to possibly amend those taxes or what they can apply now. Now, we have to remember in April, usually that is everyone's, depending on your business entity, that is the deadline to pay your taxes. It's not always the deadline to file, but it is the deadline to pay your taxes. So you don't want to wait to the last minute and realize that you have a large tax liability due in April. You want to start understanding how much you know now, how much you may need to pay now, and you want to start planning accordingly to that estimation. So within tax planning, I was saying you're looking at the entity. You're looking at how your business is structured, whether you are an LLC, whether you are a sole proprietor or a partnership. All that reflects in how you are going to plan, how you are going to budget, and what numbers you are pulling out of your financials. So basically, when we're looking at bookkeeping, bookkeeping leads to your financial statements. So you're putting in every transaction to build your financial statements. From there, you're looking at your strategies as to how you're going to file, whether you are going to do a standard deduction or you are going to itemize, putting every thing that you made, every expense that you took out. And if you don't have those records within your bookkeeping, there's no way that a CPA or a EA, which is an IRS enrolled agent or tax preparer, will be able to put that on there because we do need documentation. If you are ever audited, we have to also go in and say, hey, these are the documents that we were provided with. These are the financial statements. These are the receipts. These are the invoices and work orders that our clients provided us with so we can come up with these numbers and we were able to take these deductions. If you don't have those records in order, there is a great possibility that you can be penalized. And not only that, whoever did and signed off on your taxes can also be penalized. Because at that point in time, if we don't have those records or receipts, we are not in compliance with what the IRS requires. So you want to make sure that your books are clean now before we even get to that. Another aspect of bookkeeping is that when it comes to accountants, you have to realize when we are in the middle of a tax season, they are swamped. We all are swamped. And the price per hour goes up. The last thing you want is for an accountant to be doing your bookkeeping during tax season. So you don't want to be paying thousands and thousands of dollars to an accountant just to go over transactions that should be easily available within your bookkeeping and your financial statements. So one of the things we have to realize is bookkeeping is recording and tracking daily transactions, managing invoices, payroll, and ledgers. And you're basically focusing on accuracy and organization. Whereas accounting, they are interpreting that data. So we are going from bookkeeping to financial statements to tax filing. I always put in there bookkeeping, financial statements, tax strategy, and then filing. So when you are doing your bookkeeping portfolios, you're looking for your income and your expense ledgers, you're looking for your payroll reports, your 1099s. Those are actual statements that if you have, let's just say, subcontractor employees or possibly business to business dealings where you're buying supplies from another business, you would be filling those out and sending those out. You also have your bank reconciliations and your credit card reconciliations. And one thing I want everyone to keep in mind, if you are operating an LLC, a limited liability company, you have to make sure that your personal accounts and your business accounts stay separate. I've worked in law for many years and worked in basically liability. One of the big issues when it comes to small businesses is this. If you are mixing your business and personal together, you lose that limited liability because then an attorney can argue that you are not operating as a business, as a limited liability company. You are operating as a sole proprietor, and that means that they can go after your assets. So let's just say someone slips and falls at your business, and you say, oh, okay, well, I have business insurance and I'm a limited liability company. They can't go after my house or anything. And then we come in and we say, hey, they're buying assets and they're buying goods from out of their personal account instead of their business account. It is no longer a limited liability. They can argue that you are now a sole proprietor. So these are things that we need to keep in line, and bookkeeping and reconciliation helps to do that. Also, depreciation, especially with this new bill, depreciation, you want to keep all records of any equipment that you purchase, whether it's laptops, whether it's big equipment within your industry, because that is actually a tax write-off. So we want to make sure that we are keeping those receipts and those invoices and keeping it on our bookkeeping so we can actually take advantage of those. So as I was explaining before, your business structure matters. How your entity operates and how your entity is registered actually matters on your income tax and also your bookkeeping. So if we're looking at a sole proprietor, their tax forms are basically easy, and their bookkeeping, depending on their business, should be straightforward. So we're looking at the 1040, which everyone, whether you are in business or whether you're just an individual with a W-2, actually files. So they would use a Schedule C, which is a profit and loss, and we would just file their taxes easily, and just put their expenses and their profit on that schedule. A limited liability, that is another pass through. It depends on whether you are a single member LLC or a multi member LLC. And the difference is, if you are a multi-member LLC, you basically operate as a partnership. So you will be filing a 1065. And what the 1065 does is it lists every partner on there. So it's going to list your expenses, it's going to list your revenue, it's going to basically end with your profit. And then from that point, that same document should be distributed to each of the partners. So when they file their taxes, that information is the same. The problem is, if your books aren't together and you both aren't communicating properly as to what was our expenses, what was our actual revenue, and then these forms are submitted, it's going to trigger an audit. And that's why the books that you have throughout the company has to be on point. It's something that is extremely important to make sure that you guys are basically flying up under the radar and doing everything in compliance. So for an S corporation, which I know a lot of people have opted now, instead of doing the LLC, they feel that they can, get some type of tax haven. Once again, please speak to a strategist, because that it does depend on a lot of different areas and aspects when it comes to strategizing and filing. With an LLC, you do have the option to either file as a corporation. I'm sorry, with an S corp, you do have the possibilities to file as a corporation or a LLC. So speak to a strategist and or your CPA and find out what is going to be the best. Have them run it either way to see what gives you the lowest tax liability. Once again, a partnership is the same with a pass-through taxation. So you will once again file that Form 1065, and the information has to be the same for every partner that is filing. If not, it's going to create an issue. As for a corporation, you have to realize that you have a double taxation for a corporation. The corporation is taxed. I believe it's a flat tax of, I'm just going from memory here, it's flat tax of 21%. And then the shareholders are taxed on the dividends. So you want to make sure that you're planning for all of this now. So we want to stay ahead of certain dates. Um, Whenever we are looking at our books, and one of the best ways to stay ahead and stay ahead of your tax liability is your estimated quarterly payments. Now, I'm always going to stress this. I'm always going to tell all of my clients to put this in their bookkeeping. This is the best way to stay ahead. One thing that a lot of people get confused on when it comes to filing taxes is that, oh, okay, my taxes are due April 15th, but if I get an extension, which depending on the entity, a form 7004 or 4868, I can pay my taxes late. That is not true. Your payment for your taxes are due April 15th, whether you get an extension to file the documentation. The extension is only for the documentation. It is not for the payment of taxes. So we tell everyone, hey, let's see what your tax obligation is, because that is still due on the 15th. The documentation justifying what you paid is not due until you get that extension. So please keep that in mind. I always stress quarterly payments. They are up on the screen as to when you should be paying. We always suggest that you pay at least a estimated 90% quarterly, depending on your industry and your revenue. I know some, depending on your industry, some people have a more of the uh their revenue comes in during a certain time of the season, so they try to rely on that. And it's something that you can definitely work with, but you do want to at least make some quarterly payments. And that also helps to you getting a possible refund once we add in the deductions and the credits at the end of the year once we're ready to file your taxes. A couple other things that business owners have to think of and look into, that we make sure that they keep their books straight, is that you also have to send out your 1099s and your W-2s to your employees, your subcontracted employees, and also other businesses that you have worked with. Those are due January 31st. And depending on your entity as to when you are required to file your taxes, it can be either April 15th or March 15th for S Corps, for depending on when your tax year is. And that is usually established when you incorporate. You will be able to decide when exactly your tax season ends. So, of course, that's entity to entity. Usually, I would say 90% of all businesses, especially small business, I would say 99%, maybe 95%, their taxes are due April 15th. So please keep that in mind. And that means payment is due April 15th. Documentation, you may be able to get an extension on. So when we're talking about deductions and credits, like I said, the law has just changed over. So we will be working on that new law. Some of the deductions and credits are being phased out. There are some new ones, some good ones. It depends on who you talk about. Some people love the new deductions and credits. Some people hate them. It all depends on running the number for your business to see what you are eligible for. You know, you have work opportunity credits, energy efficiency credits, small employers on health credits. So it's something that you want to look into early on to try to get that tax liability as low as you possibly can. And for us to be able to see that, we need to have your books, we need to have things in order and have them clear. So we definitely need you guys to be working on those bookkeeping, working on putting in your transactions. And then if you guys need help with getting those financial statements together, of course, we're always here to help. So, one of the things that I always like to make people aware of in the beginning is the penalties. Sometimes it helps to scare people into keeping their books up to date. Sometimes it doesn't. I do understand everyone gets busy. I get busy and fall short with things, especially during tax season when we have clients. But it's something that you need to keep in mind. So, I always explain that there are two types of penalties. One is if you are late, and of course it's not intentional, things got busy, your whoever you're working with your books, your financials, maybe you're missing receipts, maybe you don't have your taxes from the last 2 years and you need to request them from the IRS. There are a lot of things that come up, life comes up. Uh, there are still penalties, but that is different from what the IRS will call a intentional um, late filing. So we have an incorrect filing or a late filing, and then where the IRS is believing that you may have intentionally delayed. You have to realize if you are filing your taxes late, it can trigger an audit because they want to know why you're delaying this information. They feel that your book should be in order because you are doing this either daily, weekly, monthly when it comes down to your bookkeeping and your financial statements. So it should be easy to pull that information off of those statements, put it into your tax information, apply those deductions, apply those credits, and then submit. So when you have possibly filed for an extension or even didn't file for an extension and then you did not submit that information, then we are looking at certain penalties. So here, failure to file 5% per month, up into 25%, failure to pay. So let's just say you owe, like I said, even though you may get an extension on the documentation for your taxes, that tax liability obligation should be paid by April 15th. So failure to pay, you're looking at 5% per month. Now, the incorrect filing, um, for you're looking up to about 20%. So these are things that you really have to stay on top of. And we just talked about the 1099 forms that every business owner is required to fill out and send out. So if you are negligent in sending that out and you are holding up someone else's taxes, that is going to come back on you. And one thing you have to realize is that interest is compounded daily. So these are very important things that you need to keep in your calendar. I'm always going to stress making quarterly payments. And even when it comes to payroll, we are looking at penalties. I always stress that if you are doing anything with payroll management, you either do a monthly or a quarterly payment. Those fines for not only the business, but whoever is handling payroll management can become very high. So these are things that you want to speak to someone about if you are having trouble with to get ahead of it. So why does it matter? It saves time during tax season. Once we get in your documentation and paperwork, is if it's all together, your portfolio looks good, we can pull the information off, we have the receipts, and we can justify your deductions and your credits. It gets you in and out, you know what your tax liability is, and either we get you down to possibly zero if we can, or we can get you as low as we possibly can, or possibly even a refund. I always say possibly even a refund when we're dealing with small businesses, because I work with a lot of businesses who have not paid taxes throughout the year. So when they come to me and they haven't paid taxes throughout the year, I never say, oh, you're going to get a refund because you haven't paid anything into it. So I always say we try to get it as low as possible if you have the money to pay. If not, we work with the government to put you on some type of payment plan. So that's something. It reduces the risk of liability. So having your books in order, having it protected, being able to go back and pull any invoices, any purchase orders. It helps if you are audited, if there are questions about it. But not only does it help now, remember when I said that we are strategizing for the next 5 years? You are not going to remember in 2030 what you did in 2025. You are not going to remember every transaction. So let's just say when a business is operating at a loss and you take a part of that loss in 1 year, and then you have to carry or want to carry a part of that loss to offset your profits in the next year, you have to track that. If your bookkeeping is not up to par and you are not saving these documents and keeping those documents, then you are not able to track that and you are going to lose out. This all comes down with staying compliant. So you have to be compliant with federal and you have to be compliant with state. You have to remember those are separate. Even if federal gets you and you think you're in the clear, if you were not doing the same thing with state, that is a totally different fine, and they do not combine the two. So you have to make sure that you are staying compliant on all measures because it will affect your business. So as you see at the bottom of the screen, this is our monster for someone who has not actually kept up with their bookkeeping. So as you know, we are in November now. If we started in January and we're in November now and your bookkeeping is all over, you need to contact someone to get a little help. You need to start working with that track one to get on point. Possibly have one of your employees start entering in all the receipts, getting receipts that you don't have, especially if you brought equipment and you are looking into doing depreciation. Those receipts need to be kept. So you want to keep all this in mind. You don't want to wait until January or February to do that because April will be on us very soon. Okay. So once again, we spoke on the penalties and the interest. It does add up quickly. We spoke on late filing and the possibility of raising suspicions with audit. Also with compliance, you want to make sure that you remain in compliance because once you are on their radar, they will keep auditing you, not only federal, but also the state. They're going to look to make sure that you are staying compliant because one thing they have to protect is the employees that work for you, and they have to make sure that your books and the information that you are actually submitting is correct. So the benefits of preparing early and making sure that your books are prepared and making sure that you have spoken with a tax strategist, you have a faster refund or a better tax liability. It helps resolving any type of discrepancies. Whenever we work with a client, we get their taxes for the last 2 years to make sure that we are staying on par, and whether we go back, we look at their taxes and see if anything needs to be amended or anything needs to be brought up or may cause an issue later on down the line. We also help with finding certain receipts and ledgers that people may have lost that may affect them later on down the road. You have to remember, especially with depreciation, let's just say you purchase a building. You have to keep all the information of the closing statements and deeds on that building for the life of that building. So we're looking at sometimes 30 years with a mortgage. 30 years, you have to keep that plus another 5 to 7 years for tax purposes if this is within your business. So these are documents that you want to make sure you can go and pull, and that should be within your bookkeeping that is easily accessible. So it's basically a strength. It helps with your credibility, especially if you're looking at bringing in partners or doing loans. If you're looking at lenders, you want to make sure your books are cleaned and easily available. So you don't want this monster to get out of hand. So once again, we do offer these services. GNEC offers a great deal with the bookkeeping and QuickBooks for the 55 hours for the 12 months. It's going to help you manage your financials monthly. And it also has some of the tax guidance that I spoke about. With our service, we do bookkeeping, we do payroll management. Of course, we do tax planning and strategy. We do filing and back office support. And we also do the minority and disadvantaged small business compliance to help you get contracts throughout the government and other entities. So we are here if you need us. I know Heidi and Al, they may have other things to add, especially with their services, but I am going to open the floor for anyone who has questions.
Key points that they touched on. Very important is the understanding the issue of your LLC and how you filed. If you use a Schedule C, you may lose some of the protection provided you through the LLC arrangement. You have to be paramount. Pay attention to that specifically. It's very important that you remember that. Also, one of the other things is that uh, Tahara mentioned our backstop program, Track One. If you're interested in that, we posted our website information. You can always reach out to me. One of the things about our Track One, though, it's important to note that you are going to be, if you participate in that track, which is for bookkeeping, you're going to be responsible for the day-to-day ledger entries. You'll be trained on how to do that through the program, and it does not include tax preparation. We lead you up to that time so that I want to make sure you're aware of it. Now, if you do need tax assistance in preparing your taxes, you could always reach out to B Administrative Solutions, Tahara, and also through Dana, so that you can work with them to get you over that hill that, as she described, the monster that could be waiting for you. Remember those timelines that she covered. It's very important. This way, you don't want to be, I should add, behind the eight ball, so to speak. And remember, because of the big, beautiful tax bill, you might be getting a rebate because of the tariff situation. So I just wanted to say, hey, you might be able, you're going to need that paperwork ready to be able to explain what your income is, etc. One quick question, Tara. What is your feeling about the QuickBooks Online? Uh,
I and now I've been using QuickBooks for over 20 something years. In my small business, helping other businesses and doing bookkeeping. It was easy transition for me to switch over to QuickBooks Online. I don't have an issue with it. I know some people have. I I enjoy it. I've used other systems. I have no issue with QuickBooks Online. So it's easy, it's an easy interface, especially for small business, especially for people who want to do their own bookkeeping and want to do their own payroll management. It does help. One of the downsides is that if you need additional assistance or have questions, that's an extra service that you have to pay for. So that's the only downside
Yeah,
for me
it's
when it comes to QuickBooks.
gotcha. When we used to provide a QuickBooks subscription, it was the enhanced version.
Right.
Uh,
Okay.
and we found that that was not, it was good for some people. It wasn't for
Right.
others. They needed something more powerful. But that's when they enroll in a program, when they work with the providers who provide the track one, they do analysis to figure out which is the right one for them.
Right.
And that's why we increase the number of support hours or training hours from 50 to 55. Thank you for that.
Generally speaking, when it comes to tax preparation, it's usually hard to gauge. It all depends on the business. We have an easy 1, 2, 3, easy business, sole proprietor, um, Schedule C EZ, which is the new shorter version of the Schedule C for a sole proprietor. We're looking at anywhere from 350. In anything where it's more complicated. Now, when I say about 350, we're speaking on someone whose books are together. Of course, if we have to go and um back and get a couple things, that shouldn't affect the cost or in terms of your tax preparation, but the more complicated and the more your bookkeeping is in disarray, of course, that price does rise. Before we do any type of preparation, we give you the price up front. We just have to know what we are looking at. So it's not something where we would do your taxes and then afterwards just hand you an outrageous bill. No, we look at what we're looking at. We look at what you have. We assess, we give you a price, and then you go from there. Another thing about B Administrative Solutions, we're open all year. We're not one of those tax places which they're only open for 5 months out of the year and then it's hard to get information. No, we are open all year long and we're working hard all year long. So hopefully that helps with that.
That's a good point because many times try to get hold of someone that one of the that I'm not going to name, but some of the persuasion, the busy bees there, no, nothing
Yes.
intended here. But certainly, you folks that are interested, please reach out to Be Administrative Solutions. I started to mention that I was glad that you mentioned the cash flow projections,
Mhm.
etc. And also, it's very important that all the participants who are in business, obviously, they should have a 3 to 5 year cash flow projections, and also to understand what the break even points.
Yes.
Because if you are not charging what your to make up the costs, you're actually in a hobby, and you don't want that. You want to stay in business, you
Yes.
want to grow, get
Yes.
employees, and things like that. So I'm sure that B Administrative Solutions will be able to assist you with that as well.
And
So
you have to realize that if your business, if it's not showing that your expense and profits are at a certain margin, then the IRS will list your business as a hobby. So that actually comes up. That's actually one of the big categories as to whether it is a legitimate business, if it can be categorized as a legitimate business or if they're going to look at it more as an hobby. So bookkeeping helps with that. So we do know a lot of times within the first 5 years of any business, it is a struggle. Your revenue is all over the place. So a lot of times we're fighting in between those two to show like, hey, yeah, we're in the first 5 years. This is a new business. We're getting into this market. A lot of times we're breaking into a very competitive market. And now that we're fighting a lot with more overseas places, doing international business, it's a lot harder. So you want to make sure bookkeeping, invoices, documentation is there just in case it's ever questioned.
excellent. I really want to thank you, Tahira, and also Dana,
Thank
of
you.
this great presentation. I would like to consider perhaps we're going to do it again. Very timely as to what we are all involved in.
And remember, if you think of something later on, I have put our contact information in the chat. So you can always either shoot me an email or possibly book a time for us to speak, and we can help you guys get on track. If you feel that you are on track and you want to use us possibly for taxes, we would love the business and love to be able to talk to you and help you guys grow.
Okay, thank you all. I hope you have a pleasant afternoon. Enjoy the lunch and have a good day. So long. Thank you.